miracle that was attributed to Venerable Carlo Acutis' intercession. The miracle happened in 2013, which involved a young boy from Brazil who suffered from a rare pancreatic disease. Pope Francis confirmed this miracle in a decree on 21 February 2020, which enabled for Acutis to be beatified. The beatification is scheduled for 10 October 2020 to be held in Assisi. Road to sainthood is usually 5 years after a person's death. First, usually the potential saint's pastor will present the case to the bishop. The person is called a servant of God, as soon as the case is accepted for consideration. Second, the servant of God will be called venerable, only after the Vatican Congregation for the Causes of Saints determines that the servant of God lived a heroic virtue. It does not mean that the servant of God lived a sinless life but worked to improving themselves spiritually, trying to be better and grown in holiness. Third, the venerable will be called blessed only after the Church establishes a miracle through the intercession of the venerable. The case is presented to the Pope, who will see whether the venerable is worthy of being called blessed. This is called beatification. Fourth, finally, the sainthood title. Another miracle has to happen. The case will presented to the Pope again for his final judgment. The evidence and research has to be credible. If credible, the canonization process starts, and the blessed will be called a saint.
Carlo Acutis was an Italian Roman Catholic teenager. He was best known for documenting Eucharistic miracles around the world, and cataloging them all onto a website that he himself created in the months before his death from leukemia. Whoever knew Carlos shared their memories of his love for the poor. With his savings, he bought sleeping bags for homeless people, and in the evening he brought them some hot drinks. Antonia Salzano, Acutis' mother, recalled. He said it was better to have one less pair of shoes and able to do an additional good work, she remembered. The Italian teenager, who loved soccer and video games, also spent his time volunteering at a soup kitchen in Milan run by the Capuchins and Mother Teresa's Missionaries of Charity. From childhood he showed great charity towards others. His love was extraordinary, first of all for his parents, and then for the poor, the homeless, the marginalized and the elderly, abandoned and alone. He used the savings from his weekly pocket money to help the beggars and those who slept outdoors. He organized fairs in the parish to help the missions with the funds raised. Carlo had a special bond with Assisi. He had Assisi in his heart. He said it was the city where he felt happiest, his mother said. One of Acutis' favorite spots to pray in Assisi was the Porziuncola, the small 4th-century church now located inside of Assisi's Basilica of St. Mary of the Angels, where St. Francis heard Christ speak to him from a crucifix. Carlo liked this church, because he had a great devotion to the souls in purgatory. He liked to pray and apply indulgences to them. Carlo Acutis, like Saint Francis, had in common, in addition to love for Jesus and in particular for the Eucharist, a great love for the poor. This is why we decided that, in a circumstance like this, we had to leave a strong mark, and what better sign than that of charity? From a young age, Acutis seemed to have a special love for God, even though his parents were not especially devout. His mom said that, before Carlo, she went to Mass only for her first communion, her confirmation, and her wedding. Later they returned to the Catholic faith. As a young child, he loved to pray the rosary. After he made his first communion, he went to Mass as often as he could, and he made holy hours before or after Mass. He went to confession weekly. As he grew older he began to go to Mass daily, often bringing his parents along. He had made the Eucharist the center of his life, and he directed towards the most needy the love that God poured out through him.
As a teenager, Acutis was diagnosed with leukemia. He offered his sufferings for Pope Benedict XVI and for the Church, saying, "I offer all the suffering I will have to suffer for the Lord, for the Pope, and the Church." Among his friends was Sister Giovanna Negroto, a missionary religious sister, who is now 86 years old and one of the people who shared her memories of Acutis at the event in Assisi. She said that Acutis took great interest in her missionary work in India, asking to see photos of my great leper friends. She said the last question that Acutis had asked her was, "What do you think? Is God more pleased with a service like this to the least of the world, generous and tireless, or prayer?"
Acutis will be beatified in Assisi in the Basilica of St. Francis October 10, 2020. Today. He was buried in Assisi in 2006 at his request because of his love for Saint Francis of Assisi, patron saint of the poor. 102 saints or blesseds who are recognized by the Church or claimed to be incorrupt. The tomb of Venerable Carlo Acutis was opened for public veneration. For the first time in history we will see a saint dressed in jeans, sneakers, and a sweater. This is a great message for us. We can feel holiness not as a distant thing but as something very much within everyone's reach because the